Welcome to the On the Rise podcast, where we talk about time freedom, passive investing through real estate, finance, and mindset. Let's dive in. Quick disclaimer as always, I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney or a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I am not telling you or anyone else what to do. The views and opinions expressed in these podcasts are provided for education and informational purposes only and are not necessarily the views of my employer. All right, welcome back on the Rise podcast listeners. Thank you again for joining another episode today. I've got another amazing guest with me, as I do always. I've got Delores Hirschmann. Dolores, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking with you today. So for my listening audience, Dolores is an investor, a strategist, a speaker, and a founder of Masters in Clarity, which is a strategic and business coaching firm. She helps service professionals grow their business and establish thought leadership. So a little bit of a disclaimer here. This podcast episode has nothing to do with real estate or investing, really. All right. So I just wanted to let my listening audience know that. So Dolores, maybe you can kind of, let our listeners know a little bit more, about yourself, your background, your journey, what you're focused on today, et cetera.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. So first of all, I have an accent because a lot of people will listen to me for like 20 minutes and then the only thing they're thinking about is where is she from? So let's clear that up. I do have an accent. I've been in the US for over 28 years and I'm originally from Argentina. And so throughout my life, I focused on two things really, uh, creativity and how it applies to business and business growth, and personal development and how it applies to the things you want to create in your life. Because I believe that our business growth or our success or whatever it is that we have, it's an outcome, it's a result of our internal journey. And so I am, professionally, I went to school for business strategy, marketing. I actually have been in the playing with digital marketing since 1996. And yes, I am that old. I'm 53. But I always say that because I was playing with, or more than playing, than exploring how the internet was going to affect the way we brands connect with customers and vice versa, since before Amazon existed. I actually was one of the first 100 clients for Amazon because I was online and seeing what was going on. And I say that because today, you come full circle. Today in the work that I do, I believe that we brands, we companies have a responsibility to market. But marketing, as my mom would say, marketing is a dirty word. I don't believe that marketing is a dirty word. I believe marketing is the action of sending invitations to your party. Like if you're having a big party and you get the caterer and all everybody, but you did not send an invitation, you did not follow up, you did not ask for an RSVP, you will get crickets. And so that's really what it is, what marketing is. And then there's a zillion ways to go about it. And I believe that in the world of 2025 and AI, we have to use all the technology that's available and make the last mile human.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I appreciate that, kind of that background. And I know that you've got a background as an entrepreneur and building a successful business. I also know that you refer to yourself as a CCO, a Chief Clarity Officer. So what does clarity actually mean, in a business context? And why do you feel like so many entrepreneurs struggle to find it?
Yeah, I believe that clarity is that we all seek and none of us ever find. And so first is being comfortable that you will never get clarity, but what you will get is a clarity of your next action. That's number one. Number two is that your main vision is your North Star, and everybody wants the North Star vision and the playbook that day by day, hour by hour. And I always say, like, get that clarity on the long term vision and be happy with the immediate next step clarity and trust that everything else will come. One of the things that I always refer to is like at night, we drive our fancy cars 60, 80, 90 miles per hour in pitch dark, no moon, although last night was a full moon. Um, uh, And we are okay just being able to see whatever distance, and I should research this, like whatever distance our headlights show us, right? And we go fast, and it's milliseconds of clarity that we get as we go down the highway, and we trust that the highway will be there and that we are safe. And in some ways, it's that kind of like experience that especially entrepreneurs need to feel very comfortable with being uncomfortable, moving fast with the information that they have, and never look back.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I came from a sales professional background, and I oftentimes would tell, my peers that sometimes it's better to know who your customer is not than it is to know who your customer is, right? And kind of establishing that clarity so that what types of interactions and individuals, you should be focusing and spending your time on versus just spinning your wheels, chasing after a potential prospect that has a very low probability of ever doing business with you. So I appreciate your perspective there. And I also want to kind of ask another, related question here. There's when it comes to building a brand and marketing your business and successful entrepreneurship and having clarity, there's kind of this difference between what I would call a recognized expert versus somebody that just has expertise. And I know that you've helped coach, countless, coaches and experts and authors, build these kind of thought leadership platforms, right? So, what separates from somebody from being a recognized expert versus somebody that just has pure expertise?
Yeah, I mean, if you do something long enough, you're going to be an expert at it. Like, you're going to have experiences, you're going to know some things. But if you wake up one day and realize, okay, I have under my belt the years, the experiences, the bullfights, and I am ready to share them with the world for whatever reason. It could be to build your brand, because you have 1 year to live and you want to give it all. There's a moment in time where we realize that what we've learned is great for us and our work and contributing to the spaces that we contribute, but we realize that there might be a bigger game for us to play. And so thought sought out thought leader, or an expert that is recognized as an expert, is someone that one day decided to be intentional about who gets to see them, but also own their knowledge. Like, a lot of us know a lot of things that we don't own that we know it. And it could be, and that there's a lot of personal development that comes at play for that process. Is like, I can know a lot of things, but do I feel confident knowing that I know it? And do I claim that knowledge, not from a place of ego, but from a place of responsibility and giving back, and from a place of how can I contribute, from a place of service?
Why is it that you think that more people don't lean into that? Is it because people are afraid of what maybe other people might think? Or do people genuinely not think that they are credible enough in their particular, niche or industry?
So, all of the above. First of all, there's a couple things. There's sometimes we need a carrot to overcome something hard or a fear or a challenge. And so when people or business owners understand the power that their personal brand can contribute to their careers or to their companies, then they might overcome whatever's getting in the way in service of that bigger goal, right? That's, sometimes the outcome is bigger than your fear, and then you take that action. But the other thing, Jeremy, is that many of us, and I'll say women, because sometimes we women take a little bit longer to get here, is that it takes courage to speak up. It takes courage to take a stand for your message and what you know. And in some ways, it's that experience of, if you're running a race and all of a sudden you're really in the front and you're like, okay, wait, am I first or am I lost? And that's a healthy thing that happens in our brain, because in some ways it keeps us honest. uh, but it can be a lonely place to know things that the people around you might not understand or not know. And that's actually a conundrum that a lot of visionaries have.
I'm Zach Captainstall, CEO and co-founder of Rise 48 Equity. Our goal is to help you protect and grow your wealth by investing in large multifamily apartment buildings. We do all the work as far as sourcing these large apartment buildings from the brokers, doing all of the on-site management with our vertically integrated property management company, doing all the renovations with our vertically integrated construction company. We completely rebrand the exteriors. We will renovate the interiors to our full platinum level scope, which increases the value of the asset to get that profit margin for the investor. If you'd like to learn about how you can partner with us on these exciting opportunities, and go to our website and set up a call with our team.
I was going to tell you a little bit of a story on myself and kind of maybe see how it kind of mirrors in with what we're talking about here. So I spent 25 years in tech sales, and then I completely rebranded myself in a completely different industry in a matter of about 6 to 9 months. Okay. And one of the things that I did to kind of do that is I decided to author a book. I decided to post on social media, multiple times, per week. I started to write, blog articles, right? I started to really just get my story out there. I started a podcast, right? So I really kind of started to do all of these things in an industry, by the way, that I was not in for 25 years, that I recently got in, but I completely rebranded myself. And people oftentimes ask, Jeremy, how is it that you were able to do that? And my answer is really, I just started telling my story and leveraging a number of different mediums in order to do that. So as a former, TEDx, organizer, what did you learn about storytelling and message design that you feel like most professionals still get wrong today?
First of all, I want to make a distinction and a parenthesis here, Jeremy, is that the fact that you're new to the industry doesn't mean you're not an expert in the role that you're playing in that industry, because I suspect that you learn new things, but you brought in your years of experience of building relationships, of handling negotiations, of handling communications. You just, instead of making a chocolate cake, you make an orange cake. Like there was an expertise that transferred. So that's, I want to make that distinction. Second, it takes strategy, it takes intention to create a personal brand and position yourself in the way you did. And so those are all actions that are incredibly powerful, and they stack on each other to create your presence and your omnipresence. And as far as messaging and how do you can do all of those things and still fail. But what you have done well, and people who are known have done well, is that the action doesn't mean the success, is how do you use that action? Let's say podcast as a platform, book as a platform, speaking as a platform. How do you show up in those spaces with the right structured message so that you can relate to people? And yes, storytelling. And I teach this. I'm running a bootcamp next week on this. Um, Stories are not what you talk about. Stories are tools that are strategically picked and inserted in your message so that you can relate to people. Stories is how we share our humanity with other humans, and we use stories for the illustration of the ideas we are looking to bring forth.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And, sometimes people ask me, how is it that you're able to immediately build a relationship with somebody in such a short period of time? And we know that when it comes to relationships, trust is a huge part of that, right? And how we build trust is, showing up genuinely, authentically, and transparently, with another individual. And a lot of that trust factor or that relationship building can be accelerated through the art of telling stories, right? Sharing with others, your own personal background, your own personal, challenges, your own mindset shifts. It's really through that authenticity and that storytelling, right? In the days of, media platforms when we don't really know who's telling the truth, right? We've got individual connections with others where we can, come alongside them and really do life with them together. And I feel like there's a lot of power in that storytelling. So do you have any suggestions, for our listening audience that's maybe looking to level up their networking game or their storytelling game? What would maybe be a couple of different ways that you'd recommend, folks consider to be a better networker, a better influencer, right? A better partner, et cetera?
Yeah. So first of all, speaking is the fastest way to build trust and build relationships. And speaking doesn't have to be in a big theater with a big stage. It can be someone's living room. It can be in a networking event that you are just one more person, but your messaging is so clear in your head that you don't need a lot of prep time to show up and stand out. And then the next part is be strategic about what you say. Having the microphone doesn't mean it's free for all. If you have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, here's a trick that people can use. For example, for years now, not so much because I'm more picky with my time and I don't attend so many events. But early on in my career, I would attend a lot of events, especially before COVID. And I was very strategic. I would, if there was an opportunity to grab the microphone and ask a question to the presenter, which many times there is, I would look to grab the microphone and ask a question before the first break. And in my intro, back then, I would say, my name is Dolores. I'm a TEDx organizer and speaker coach, and I help people stand out in crowded rooms. And here's my question. And I didn't care, like, it was a question. And so, literally, by the time break came about, I would be chased to the bathroom because that's where people go in the break. They go to the bathroom or the lunch line, right? But I try to stand out in a crowded room. This sometimes 300 people, 800 people. Last time I did it was in January. This was actually honest. I wanted to contribute and I raised my hand and I got picked. Like, you don't always get picked. I got picked and it was 800 people plus live stream. And I contributed and people came and talked to me. Even if you just not even say much about yourself, like if you have the courage to grab the microphone, do it always.
Yeah, makes total sense. And it's interesting that you say that because I rarely show up to conferences anymore unless I have an opportunity to speak on the main stage. And I personally prefer day one because that gives me the opportunity to continue to build those relationships with people that heard me on the main stage. And the truth is, with most conferences, you get the highest percentage of people that actually show up in the room on the first day, and then they tend to tail out over time unless you've got a major keynote, speaker, on the second or third day that drives the audience. But thankful to hear that you've got, you're recommending, even though you didn't say it, you've got your elevator pitch, right? So you get your elevator pitch out there, you tell people what you do, and then you proceed into your questions. But the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway outside of that elevator pitch and grabbing the microphone is the fact that you're intentional, you show up and you take action, right? And that's the thing that I think kind of paralyzes a lot of people is they might know that they need to do these things, right? They might know that they need to have an elevator pitch. They might know that they need to, grab the microphone, take action, be intentional with their time spent, but they just don't do it, right? So what's kind of what would be your advice for that person that's like crippled with paralysis that just doesn't maybe have the natural born tenacity like the rest of us maybe do? What kind of advice would you give to that person?
What I would say is if you're experiencing fear, then celebrate it. It means that you're about to do something that you're uncomfortable with and it will stretch you from where you are, number one. So the fear is a telltale that something's good can be at the other end. And second is don't believe that because I do it or you, Jeremy, do it or speakers do it, that doesn't mean we don't feel fear. We recognize the fear, we befriend the fear, and we take action with the fear. Actually, the fear keeps us honest, keep us humble, keep us authentic. But if you let the fear stop you, then maybe that's where I said at the beginning of our conversation, personal development is the silent thing running in the background that will make or break your dreams. And so if fear is stopping you, then let's go talk about that. Let's deal with that. Let's work on that. Let's build that resilience. Resilience is an elastic band. You can grow in becoming more resilient and knowing that you can feel fear, you can step up, but nothing's going to happen to you. You'll be okay. You'll be safe.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think, a lot of times a way to overcome fear is just by doing, and the real challenge is you just lack confidence in yourself and your own ability. But if you want to gain confidence, if you want to gain motivation, those types of things, sometimes you just need to do it, right? And then
How do you build muscle in the gym?
Yeah, that's right. One rep at a time.
And you can't do 10 reps, you can do one and it hurts. Okay, do one, you'll get two next time.
That's it. So let's talk to those small business entrepreneurs. What's maybe the most common, marketing mistakes that you see small businesses making when they're trying to scale?
Yeah. So the best. I mean, I'm in the acquisition space, so 90% of small businesses that I'm talking to have a marketing problem, which is number one is they don't do it. Build it and they will come. Build the best website. Let's rebuild the website every 2 years. Maybe we change the colors or change the copy. They still won't come. The website or the storefront is how you make them stay, not how they arrive. And so marketing is not a one-off, once Black Friday moment a year. It is a consistent, cohesive, constant action that happens every single day of your business life. And then I always say there's the marketing habits, which means the things you do all the time, no matter what, like brushing your teeth. Like we brush our teeth every day. I hope we do. But we don't go to the dentist for a deep cleaning more than every 6 months, because if we brush our teeth every day, we don't need to. And so marketing has two parts: the marketing habits and then the marketing initiatives. So the marketing habits, or the marketing hygiene, if you want it, is that constant presence, constant messaging. It could look like one newsletter a month, consistent posting on social media, not every day, maybe if you want to, but even if you do 3 times a week, actually, I don't even care how many times you do it, but whatever you do, stick to it. Like if you say, I can't stand it, I'm going to do it once a month, great, start there. Twice a month, great, I don't care, but as long as it's consistent. And then once you have that platform of habits, then for all means, run a campaign. Do a media buy, do a Black Friday thing, but you are doing that. You're going to the dentist for a deep cleaning on a base of clean hygiene. Like if you and I went to the dentist every 6 months and then didn't brush our teeth for 6 months, that hygiene will last us 2 minutes. Like it just won't build our health, nor will it build your marketing pipeline. Really, it's basically you need a pipeline to survive. Any of us, if we run a business with no clients, then we don't have a business. We can have all the things, SOPs, products, like contracts, but if there is no customer, there is no money coming in, it's like there's no blood in the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
So marketing is not an optional activity, is the blood of your business.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And being consistent, with it is what really, ultimately drives those results, even maybe even more so than the quality of it. So my last couple of last questions here, thinking back to your younger entrepreneurial self, right? What's maybe one piece of, wisdom or, about building or scaling or exiting a business, that you wish you kind of, knew back then?
I think that for me, I would say, like I'm a very intuitive person. I trust my gut. But as far as, especially in my personal life and my professional career, it has taken me quite a few years to trust my gut enough to speak up in meetings. Whether it's whatever, whether it's I'm being a woman or whatever, like I've had answers to some problems I've been in meetings with that I always took a step back and let others answer first. So trust my knowledge, trust my expertise. Even when I was very young and 25, when I was doing the research on digital marketing and the internet, I still didn't trust my knowing. And it was silly because nobody else knew what the heck the internet was. And I had just written a paper on it. So I wish someone had told me, Dolores, you're onto something. Publish that book at the age of 24 when I graduated from college. Like you should go and publish that book. Like if I had known then and had the access to the platforms that we have now, I would have published a book at the age of 24, and probably my life would have been a little bit different.
Makes total sense. Get started, take action, and be consistent with it. It sounds like that's the recipe for having success in whatever you choose to do in your entrepreneurial journey. So, Dolores, I've really appreciated this conversation, the tremendous value that you've brought our listening audience. what might be a couple of different ways that we can connect with you offline to learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, check me out on LinkedIn at Dolores Hirschmann or come to mastersinclarity.com.
Sounds good. Well, we'll put those links in the show notes for this episode. Again, really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Absolutely. And listening audience, thank you again for jumping into another episode of the On the Rise podcast. We look forward to having you join us on the next episode.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the On the Rise podcast. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decisions, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the On the Rise podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.